Has everybody done zero Now is the time for a military branch with a clear and singular focus on space. A military branch that protects the hopes and dreams of America and our way of life as the space domain becomes more and more contested. It's time for another giant leap. The United States Space Force is being built from the brightest minds across the space operations of the Air Force, our joint services, and the private sector. We won't just think outside the box. We'll think outside the atmosphere in one of the most challenging environments ever known.
In 2019, Mr. Henderson's fifth grade class from Key Peninsula's Evergreen Elementary
here in Gig Harbor, and I want to
Matt,
welcome all
give me about
the
a couple
veterans
seconds
in our
heads
region
up, okay?
to our celebration today. From my understanding, we're experiencing a little bit of
Knock it
rain
over
out
when I
here.
walk out of here.
American Legion Heart was established by
Hang
congressional
strong, guys.
note in
I'm sorry.
1919 as a result of World War I.
Introduce myself. Welcome to Veterans Day, and then start out with getting the reveille of that.
Department or a organization that's represented in every state of the Union and in France and in the Philippines. We maintain the dignity of American graves worldwide. We also provide a lot of help and support for today's veterans, and we provide a lot of education to youth groups as well. And I would suggest or recommend that and would like folks out there to look at our youth groups for examples like Evergreen Boys State, Evergreen Girls State, and other programs we got going on in the state. So at this time, I'd like to turn this over to the actual program. And thanks for being here, and have a great American Legion Day.
Good morning, veterans. I hope we're all dry out there. So my name is Joe Loya. I'm within the Veterans Day Committee to put this event on today. I'm also with Post 236 of the American Legion, and I want to thank you for coming today. So I'm opening up this event, and I thought I'd play a little tune for you that you all remember when you were in the service. So we're going to play a little reveille. Thank you very much. If you heard that, honk your horns out there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. And first of all, I'd like to call the colors. Stand to attention. Hand salute. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Hand salute. Go ahead. And now we'll have the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to retire the colors. Let's hear those horns one more time for the color guard. Okay, at this time, I have to apologize. There's a 5-second delay between my talking out to the radio station. So at this time, I would, with my pleasure, I'd like to introduce our MC for this event today. We have a local boy that here from Gig Harbor, and he works for Channel 5, and it's Greg Copeland. So here he is, our MC for today. A round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank Luke Wallstead for the national anthem. And whatever you say, I'm sorry we couldn't get better weather for this year. I tried to bribe our meteorologists. They just laughed at me and said, you know, it's the middle of November, right? I will get used to this 5-second delay at some point. We're not going to let the weather put a damper on any of our services and presentations today. We have a lot to get to. We're going to hear from some amazing guests, and I hope you all stick around and wait patiently through this disgusting weather to hear some of the wonderful stories and see some of the wonderful presentations today. We're going to kick things off with the Reverend Dan Comcia and the invocation.
Let us pray. We give thanks to you, gracious God, for your presence among us on this Veterans Day, with your guidance, with your support, with your blessing. A day of honor and a day of remembrance. We ask you to be present in all that we do in this time together. We remember today those who have served us so valiantly, the veterans from days gone by and the veterans that are here today. We give you thanks for their service. We also remember their families who were so much of a support in all that they did, that they too at times needed to be a part of a deployment in their own homes that lasted while their loved ones were away. And finally, we want to remember that 20 years ago and 2 months to this very day, our country was attacked and lives were lost. We remember the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the lives, the 3,000 plus lives that were lost and still continue to lose lives these days. We ask for a moment of silence, a moment of reflection for all those who passed in that fatal day. Thank you. Be with us now and bless this time together. Bless all of the veterans and all who have attended, and be with us throughout this day. For we ask in your great name, gracious God. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, I'd like to bring Joe back up to make our first presentation.
So at this point, I'm very proud to present somebody who spent his life in the military for our country, and he was a guest speaker for us last year, and I would like to bring up Captain Reinhardt. Captain Reinhardt, what was your official title?
Yeah, so I was just recently relieved as the commanding officer at Naval Base Kitsap, so just about 25 miles north of here.
And you want to say something about Veterans Day in the harbor?
Yes, please. I absolutely would. So for the last couple of years, I've called Gig Harbor home. And what I'll tell you is there is no better place to serve in the country than right here in the Pacific Northwest. I've loved Gig Harbor. I've loved serving here, and I've loved calling it home and being part of this community. I'd also like to add, if I could, thank you to all the veterans that are out there. Really, it's because of the sacrifices and the services of all of our veterans over these last 250 years that allow us to be here celebrating this day and celebrating life in this great country. Thank you, Joe.
If I get a salute from you, sir. Thank you for service. So at this time, for the Veterans Day Committee, I'd like to present you with this plaque on commemorating this day and all the work you've done for our country and the service and time in the U.S. Navy, even though I'm in the Air Force. No, but anyway, good job. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Joe.
Hope to see you around again.
Thank you, Gig Harbor. This is an honor.
Thank you.
But don't worry, I'm not going to let you out of here quite so easily. We're going to change things up again on the fly, and I'm going to have you do our first drawing today, if you don't mind. Just sneak in there. All right. Do I need to read this out? This number out right now? You have to read it into mine, but go ahead.
Okay. 548-3994.
One more time.
That was 548-3994.
Honk your horn if you have that ticket. We'll wait for it. Everybody's trying to find their tickets right now. I think everybody's looking through trying to figure out whether they have that ticket. They probably should have said we're going to have the first drawing. Because if you have that ticket, dig through that pile of tickets you have and see if you can find them. Read that number one more time. Okay, now that you have your tickets in front of you, look at it carefully. 548-3994. If you have that ticket, honk your horn and somebody will come find you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much.
It's always a bumpy road.
Right behind you, Captain.
Let's sneak this way. Let's sneak it.
Hi, my name is Pat Schmidt, and this Jill Guernsey. And 5 years ago today, Jill and I were talking that Gig Harbor didn't really have a celebration to honor our Gig Harbor veterans. And so we started thinking about it, and then Jill ran into Richard Genet. And he was the driving force of starting this full program to honor our veterans. So we wanted to honor today Captain Richard Genet for all of his contributions to start the Gig Harbor Veterans Day. Now, once we give Richard the microphone, we have no idea how long this will take, because in Richard land, there are no short stories.
Retired Navy captains don't tell short stories.
Yeah, they don't tell short stories. But behind him are a few of the many, many men and women who served with him. So so this is it. Enjoy hearing a few of Richard Genet and his powerful message he has to all of his crew and to veterans.
Thank you. I always think of you as the marvelous Pat Schmidt, the marvelous Jill Guernsey. Thank you for this. You do me great honor. So, one of the things they teach you, and you can nod your heads if you'd like, in the Army, in the Marine Corps, in the Navy, Coast Guard, is they tell you, never volunteer. Am I right? Yeah, look at him. He's nodding his head. Never volunteer. So what do? I volunteered. And Jill got me for a couple of things. We won't go into anything but this. But it was delightful. We had a great committee. People just put their shoulders to the wheel, and they pictured all of you 5 years hence standing out here testing your umbrellas and rain gear. Okay, so I had just a couple of short things. First of all, my shipmate. I got a call in the middle of the night from the Chief of Naval Operations for Surface Warfare. And he said to me, it was Joe Metcalf, he said, go out and take command of Sterett. And I said, I can leave tomorrow morning. And he said, this is a very troubled ship, and you've got a lot of work to do. And so I went out to Sterett, and you know what? I didn't have problem one. It was a perfect tour, thanks to these kind of shipmates behind me. We won Battle E for the Pacific Fleet. We won every engineering award. We won everything there was, thanks to these great shipmates. So I'm delighted to be here. And the only thing I wanted to say was the first 2 years when we had pre-COVID, I was able to get out and wander around and talk to many vets. You know, this is a marvelous community, and the stories are just amazing. And the people that still continue to serve the community, service after service, is amazing. For the school, volunteers, tutor, mentor, you name it, food bank, you name it. And you know who you are. Give yourself a pat on the back, because that's one of the things that makes this community absolutely splendid. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Yeah, you didn't strong arm anybody, did you?
And I just want to reiterate something that Richard has pounded into me. Service after service. What a great thing, and what a great community this is, because we have so much of that. Thank you.
I can only get my wife to say all right. Thank you.
Can you return that certificate this way, please? That'd be great. Thank you, sir. Here we go. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
I think we should go that way. There's
All right.
A little less traffic.
60% less fun.
Woo!
Thank you, everybody.
I think we've got the delay for the honking figured out most of the way. At this time, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker who flew in all the way from Michigan today to be a part of this. He's no stranger to this area. The more I read about him last night, the more I wanted to read, and I just kept reading, and I was probably up a little too late from his time as the Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction here in Washington State to the time he was the Superintendent for the Peninsula School District. And then I got into the story of how, while he was working here, his wife was a professor at Gonzaga, and how they kept that love alive working on opposite parts of the states, and the phone calls every night. And it was just an amazing love story. And the more I read it, again, the more I wanted to read. But that's not why he's here today. He's here because he spent 29 years in the Marine Corps and retired as a captain and served heroically in Vietnam. If you do a Google search for Jim Coulican, Vietnam, there's no shortage of results, and you can get lost reading up about some of what he faced in Vietnam. He is one of the prominent figures in a very popular book written by a well-known author called Hue 1968, A Turning Point of the American War in Vietnam. That's by Mark Bowden. You might have heard of him. He wrote another book called Black Hawk Down that was made into a feature film, and there are plans to turn this book into a miniseries that are still in the works, that being done by Michael Mann. I don't know what Jim's going to talk about today, but I've had the pleasure of speaking with him for just a few moments, and I just know he has a good story. So without further ado, please take the stand. You bet.
Thank you, Greg. Before I start, I would like to follow on with other people have already said that this community is not only a great community, it's unusual that they would have a Veterans Day ceremony every year. And I just want to congratulate you, and from all the veterans, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I want my fellow veterans to know that for me, today is a great honor to be here with you, my fellow veterans, because on Veterans Day, veterans want to be together. So I would thank you for allowing me to be here with you. Now, veterans don't celebrate Veterans Day. For us, Veterans Day is a day of honor and remembrance. We honor those veterans who are no longer with us, and we remember the veterans that we served with, many of whom we'll never see again because of time or distance, but we never forget them, especially today. Now, from the time of General Washington, when this country was in peril, young men and women came forward and said, I'll serve. And that's happened generation after generation. Now, when you think of the veteran, he or she is no different than ordinary citizens, with one exception. On the first day in uniform, that young man or woman stood at attention and they said, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties to which I'm assigned. So help me God. Now, when that person said those words, he or she gave our country a blank check. A blank check to serve anywhere, anytime. When our young men and women join the military, they train hard, they work hard, become good team members, and they make sacrifices, sometimes great sacrifices. And the thing that's interesting, with all of that, the veteran asks nothing in return. We're getting my dear friend Hugh McMillan in here and be seated, and I'll just kind of digress a tiny bit while Hugh's being seated. When I became the superintendent here at the Peninsula School District, people would often ask me, is that a tough job? I said, no. I said, Hugh McMillan, Hugh tells me what to do, and then he tells me how to do it. So that made my job quite easy. So Hugh, it's good to see you, Hugh. Thanks for being here, pal. Now, let me just kind of continue on here. I've served with militaries in Europe, Asia, and South America. There is no military like ours. And the difference is that in other militaries around the world, it's a top-down approach. In our military, it's bottom-up. People don't realize it, but we train our young individuals in boot camp and basic training to be just a little bit irreverent, because we always want them to ask the why question. Why are we doing it? Why don't we do it this way? And that's the difference between our military and other militaries around the world. Now, I want to tell you a story about a young soldier. His name is Frank Dozeman. Frank was from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Graduated from high school in 1967. His goal was to continue living and working on a family farm. But in 1967, we were at war, and there's a draft. So Frank knew he'd have to serve, so he joined the Army. After basic training, Frank was trained to be a combat radio operator and sent to Vietnam. He became my radio operator. Now, in combat, the radio operator and the commander are never separated. It's 24/7. He and I were together all the time. We took care of each other. We shared whatever we had. When it came time to rest, he would sleep and I'd watch the radio. When he got up, I'd sleep and Frank would take the radio. Now, he was a 19-year-old Army Specialist Force class. I was a 28-year-old Marine Corps captain. But Frank and I were like brothers. We took care of each other. Now, during the Vietnam War, when there was an American holiday, such as Christmas or the 4th of July, there'd be a ceasefire for a couple of days. When the Vietnamese had their holiday called Tet, T-E-T, there'd be a holiday, or a ceasefire. On the 28th of January, 1968, we're getting ready to start Tet, and there'd be a 4-day ceasefire. My unit was in the city of Hue. The ceasefire started at midnight on the 28th, and usually the ceasefires were pretty well honored. At 3:35 in the morning, on the 28th of January, the North Vietnamese launched a surprise attack on the city of Hue with 10,000 soldiers. Our unit was one of the first units hit. That young radio operator, he grabbed a machine gun, and he went to the front of our lines, and he engaged the enemy. And he bought us a few minutes of time, which saved a lot of lives. But Frank was wounded. So I went to get him. When I got to Frank, he was seriously wounded and a great deal of pain. I gave him 2 shots of morphine and carried him back to our position and gave him to a medic and some soldiers. And then I went about checking the rest of our positions. I got back to where Frank was in about 30 or 40 minutes. And I could tell that he had more morphine, so I didn't know if Frank was conscious. So I knelt down next to him and I put my hand on the ground and the other hand on his chest. And I got right down next to his face and I said, Frank, we're going to get you out of here. And when I come home, I'll come to Kalamazoo to see you. And then I said, Frank, I have to go. Before I could leave, in just a whisper, he said to me, take care of our guys. Now, when he said that, he knew he was dying. And he did die shortly after that, and he was awarded posthumously the Distinguished Service Cross, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart. And Frank is buried in a family plot in a small country cemetery near Kalamazoo, and I've been to see him several times. Now, I told you that story because that young man represents the American veteran. The military was not going to be his career, but he took that oath, and he said, I will do my duties to the best of my ability, so help me God. Now, on Veterans Day, I always attend a ceremony like this, go to the cemetery sometimes, and then during the day, I find a quiet place where I could be alone. And I think of veterans. I think of my father, who fought in the Pacific in World War II. I think of my brother, who was wounded in Vietnam and then died from his wounds. I think of Frank. I think of the guys I was with on the battlefield when they died. And I try to think of what life would have been like for them, their families, their friends, the things they would have enjoyed. And then after that, I just say a silent prayer. Now, today is the day that the American people say to the veterans, thank you. Thank you for what you did, the sacrifices you made, the hardships you endured. Because without what you did, we would not have this country today that we live in. So, I want to say to my fellow veterans, thank you, and I am proud to be one of you. I wish each of you great happiness, and God bless you. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere just yet. Let's wait for the honks, because I'm sure we'll have some in a couple seconds here. So that slight delay. And as they're starting to honk, I'm going to have you reach in and do our second drawing.
Okay.
That is our form of applause here on a day like this. Why don't you go ahead and read this, if you can. That's pretty small. You get your glasses out?
I do.
The number is 548335.
One more time.
Let's do it again.
If you're looking, we're doing the second drawing here, so if you have a ticket, take a good look at it. He's going to read it one more time.
54833. Let's do it again. 5483935.
If you have that ticket, honk your horn, and somebody will come find you. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for your service. Do that. All right. And I will have you step off. At this time, I'd like to draw your attention as we do some setup here to the missing man table. If you're in your car, it's off to our right, I believe. I can't actually see it. They're pointing at it, but I'm going to describe it best I can with what I have. This traditional table is also known as the Fallen Comrade Table or Remembrance Table. It serves as a memorial in honor of fallen, missing, or imprisoned service members. It is set with very specific items that remind us of the sacrifice they and their loved ones made in service to a grateful nation. That Missing Man table is presented by the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. A card on the table explains each individual element and its meaning, but since you are all relegated to your cars this afternoon, I am going to tell you what everything is on that table and try to paint that picture so you don't have to get out and walk in the rain. The table is round. That is to show our everlasting concern for our missing members and our friends. The tablecloth is white, and that symbolizes the purity of their motives when asked to serve in any capacity. There's a single red rose on the table, and that is displayed in a vase, and that reminds us of the lives of these Americans and their loved ones and friends who keep the faith that their service was noble and honorable. There's also a yellow ribbon, which symbolizes our continued uncertainty, hope for return of those who are still missing. And then there's a slice of lemon. That's to remind us of their bitter fate, captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt, which symbolizes the tears endured by those missing, and their families who seek answers for why they were taken. There's a glass that is inverted. That is because they cannot toast with us this afternoon. The chair is empty. They cannot sit with us today. There's a candle that is reminiscent of the light of hope that lives in our hearts to illuminate their place on this earth. And of course, the Bible to represent the strength gained through faith to sustain us and never forget their dedicated presence. I hope that I have done that justice in trying to explain that table for you today.
Those are good guys, huh?
At this time, I would like to introduce somebody who is kind of a fixture here in the Gig Harbor area and has been for quite some time. Many of you have heard the name Hugh McMillan. If you haven't, you might have been under a rock. He has so many titles, I don't even know, honestly, where to begin. I'm going to run through a few of them, and then I will let Hugh do what he does. Let's talk about them. Firstly, though, I do want to recognize that Hugh McMillan served in the Navy from 1945 to 1948, and as the war was coming to a close, he decided to just relax a little bit and then go into the CIA for 26 years. But when all was said and done, serving his country, he came back to Washington, and after growing up in Tacoma, decided they wanted waterfront and spent their time and settled in home. And out on the Key Peninsula, you certainly carved out quite a name for yourself. And again, the list is very long. I just had a few that I was going to point out to. Volunteer firefighter on the Key Peninsula, president of the Firefighters Association, 14 years as the fire commissioner. He worked with the Key Peninsula Lions Club, the food bank. The list goes on, and then I can't even begin to tell you how much he has done for students and youth, and that is kind of the theme. And who better to interview Hugh in the short video that we are going to show and air for you than a fifth grader? So let's go ahead and play that.
In 2019, Mr. Henderson's fifth grade class from Key Peninsula's Evergreen Elementary School interviewed veterans about their service and what it meant to them. One of those interviewed was Hugh McMillan. What follows are excerpts from that interview.
What was your service in the military?
I was with the U.S. Navy. I decided to join the military the minute the war started. It was December 7, 1941, when the Japanese flattened our fleet at Scapa Flow, which is Britain's naval headquarters. And Pearl Harbor was our naval headquarters. And we lost our fleet. And we lost our fleet because we didn't know what was coming up. And one of the reasons for that is because we didn't have proper intelligence. And that was one of the things that caused me to seek my future career in intelligence. Let me tell you, if you don't know what the bad guy plans to do to you, he's going to do it.
And you were in World War II, right?
I was in uniform in World War II. I never got shot at. I never left this country. And I always felt pretty guilty that I never got shot at. But I also, after the war, in 1947, a brand new part of the U.S. government called the U.S. Air Force. And I wanted to fly so bad I could taste it. And I applied and did all the tests and made it. And a few months later, I wound up at what was then called West Point of the Air, Randolph Field, Texas, which is just outside of San Antonio. Unfortunately, I was a lousy pilot, and the Air Force decided to send me home, and I was almost in tears. I wanted so badly to fly. After I got my degree, I went to the University of California at Berkeley and studied Russian and Russian studies, because I knew that that was where most of our problems were coming from. And I spent just short of 27 years worldwide as an operations officer with CIA. So I finally earned my spurs. I didn't get shot at in World War II, but I earned my spurs with CIA.
What does your service mean to you?
What does my service mean to me? Next to my wife, everything. It gave me an opportunity to have the GI Bill, which let me get my degree. It gave me a chance to serve the country that I'm dedicated to. It gave me a chance to work and be with lots of young people my own age who were similarly inclined to want to help their country. And that's pretty important.
And there you have it, an interview. This is an interview, and unfortunately, we can't see it here or hear it, so I'm going to use this time to explain to you. This was an interview you did with a fifth grader who was asking you about your service to the country, and I think you had a rather long interview, but we had to cut it down for a little bit of time. I'm going to, here it goes. They all heard it. That's okay. Why don't you take this opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say? I'm going to step out of the way.
Am I on the air?
You are.
Okay. First, I want to thank my dear friend Jim for the flashing, glorious introduction. I hope I live up to it. What I want to say is that in World War II, after graduating from Lincoln High School in Tacoma, on the 8th of October of 1944, I became a U.S. Navy apprentice seaman at Point Loma, San Diego, California, and I took an oath. 4 years later, after they had formed a brand new part of our government called the U.S. Air Force, I was among the very first cadets, aviation cadets, at San Diego, Randolph Field, then called the West Point of the Air. And once again, I took an oath. On the 29th of January of 1952, I became an officer with the Central Intelligence Agency, with which I served just short of 27 years worldwide. And I took an oath. That oath is very simple when paraphrased. I swore, and I continue to swear every day of my life, that I will defend against all her enemies, both within and without, the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you.
I'm going to lead you over this way here. Follow me over here. Actually, let me present this to you first. All of our World War II veterans are getting one of these today.
Oh, wonderful.
It says, the community of Gig Harbor honors our World War II veteran Hugh McMillan, November 11th, 2021. And those horns are for you. May I escort you over to here?
Thank you.
At this time, we are going to listen to horns for a second. I like the enthusiasm, everybody. This is good. Unfortunately, what you cannot see in this tent is several more World War II veterans seated, and I'm going to try to run them down one at a time. That was probably not the best wording to use. I'm going to go one by one, talk a little bit about them, and have them share their stories, and then you will have the opportunity to honk at the very end for all of them. I think that might be the best way to do this. Without turning my back, this makes it a little bit difficult. First up, and I'm just going to, let me hand this first. I was kind of amazed in reading this. Georgia Doan was in the Army Nursing Corps, and she worked at Tacoma General Hospital 34 years, but she started her service in 1943, and I think I lost count as to how long you actually, maybe you're still going. She gave up a few years ago. Her first major assignment was at TG Hospital, caring for 60 mothers and their newborn babies, and she was often left to do that by herself. I'm going to hand her the microphone and let her say a few words, if you'd like.
Well, we were grafted into the United States Cadet Nurse Corps, and we were there to serve the home front. And we got our schooling and training, and I went in when I was 17 years old and graduated in 1946, the year the war ended. So I did not go overseas, but I was still on call to go overseas or to do whatever they needed for the next 20 years. I signed up for that. And anyway, it's been a great life. I've never regretted going there. Nursing has been my career and my love. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. If you would pass that microphone to Al, and we're going to present you, each one of you these. I'm trying to stay out of the way so you can each have these. I'm going to introduce Al right now, a U.S. Navy veteran from 1941 to 1946, lieutenant junior grade. He was aboard a cargo ship, USS Habersham, hope I got that correct, Habersham. Completed his World War II mission at Tokyo Bay, gathering of ships at the end of the war, served as a gunnery officer, night watch, watching the torpedoes and kamikazes. Anything you would like to add, sir?
Well, that's pretty much it.
I'm going to turn this in just a little bit so we make sure to hear you.
Okay. It was a pleasure to serve in the United States Navy, and I've always thought it was a high point of my life, and that's about it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pass this down to you.
Thanks, Al.
So Chuck Meacham volunteered at the age of 17 for the U.S. Marine Corps, and after boot camp, he joined the elite Marine Raiders in New Caledonia in August of 43, spent 24 consecutive months in the South Pacific, engaging in combat in Bougainville, which is just east of Papua New Guinea, worked all the way up to Okinawa, was involved in a number of first-wave landings with Japanese-held territory, later served as president of the U.S. Marine Raider Association, and is a founding member of the U.S. Marine Raider Foundation. Thank you for your service. That sounds like you were busy back then.
Thank you.
The mic is yours. Make sure to put it right up to your mouth, if you would.
Well, it was my pleasure and honor to serve in the Marine Corps during World War II for Bougainville, Emerald, Guam, and Okinawa in the Special Operations Marine Raiders. I want to thank the American Legion for what they've done here today. With a special thanks, my mother was an RN in World War I and set up the first American Legion post in Newman, California in 1919 when the American Legion was just forming. My father was an American Legion. I've been American Legion for 78 years. So anyhow, God bless this nation under God. Thank you.
All right, Jack, make sure to put that right to your mouth. I'm going to give you a quick introduction, and feel free to correct me if I get anything wrong. U.S. Navy as well, 1942 to 1947, a carpenter's mate, served aboard USS Bush, which is the destroyer DD-529, which was sunk by Japanese kamikazes April 6th of 1945, and as I understand it, you were in the water for several hours before finally being rescued. Thank you for your service.
Well, I was on destroyers all during the war, and I ended up on the USS Bush. Had nothing to do with the Texas Bushes. But the first kamikaze that hit us, killed all the officers, and I was a damage control person, so it was my job to get around and try to save the ship. And I was shot up with morphine, so what I did was probably more morphine, because I was flying. But anyhow, the Navy was good to me, and I tried to be good to the Navy.
You may hold that. I also wanted to, before we get to Wally, which many of you might remember from last year, I did want to give a shout out to Vern, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I was not able to track him down today. Vern Ludke, I hope that's correct. U.S. Navy Pacific Theater, anti-aircraft gunner, and on a destroyer, Bronze Star for downing enemy aircraft during the battle for Okinawa. So thank you for your service wherever you are. If you would like to honk your horn, Vern, if you were out there so we can recognize you, that would be great. Maybe. Maybe not. I was told he was here, but I don't know. There you go. There we go. All right, Wally Corman, again, with the Eagles. You might remember him from last year, kind of, as I understand it, I was not here, unfortunately, but he kind of stole the show a little bit. U.S. Pacific Theater, 42 to 45. And you told me that you were on an attack cargo ship and also a destroyer escort, which I know because my grandfather was on a destroyer escort as well, so I'm very familiar with them. I will let you do what you do best.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you today. And what I want to do, I want to thank all of our veterans. We've had about 18 to 19 million veterans since 1918. And we've did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of everyone. And now I'm going to get away from the men for a minute, and I want to thank all the women. Kept the home fires going when the wars were on, and then afterwards, a lot of women went into the shipyards and worked on ships, aircraft carriers, any kind, airplanes, and I am so proud of our women. And we had about 10% of people in uniform that were women, and I want to thank them again.
and thank you for your service. And this would be a great time to lay on those horns to thank all of our World War II veterans in unison. Let's hear it in about 5 seconds. People who don't know what's going on here are still trying to figure it out. Thank you, all of you, for your service and coming up here and sharing your stories with us today. Thank you to the Navy Band. Oh, and I also specifically, before I forget, you may honk. Please do. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of gentlemen from Joint Base Lewis McChord before I forget, escorting the World War II veterans both up here and back to their cars. Command Sergeant Major so they get their proper recognition. Command Sergeant Major Michael Dolly of the 502nd Intelligence Electronic Warfare Battalion and First Sergeant Andrew Owen of the 201st Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade. Thank you so much for helping the veterans both up here and back to their vehicles. And with that, I believe we are going to do a couple more drawings. So this would be the time to get your raffle tickets out. Hopefully we'll have some more horn honking. Somebody will be able to take home a flag. Wally, you going to do the honors for us?
Yeah.
All right. You draw it, I'll read it. Unless you, I mean, your eyes might be better than mine. How about this? All right. Here is the number, 548-3944. Check your tickets, 548-3944. And that's good for a flag, right? That's good for a flag. If you have that ticket, honk your horn. 548-3944. Sometimes it takes people. Can we do one more? We're going to do one more. All right. Since nobody's claiming that one, we'll do another one. Well, 548-3933. 548-3933. If you have that ticket, honk your horn. We'll come to your car, and we will present you an American flag.
I think I have a 30.
They can always come up in a little bit. Thank you, Wally. Appreciate it. All right, let me figure out. Oh, yeah. Now I would like to see if I can bring him up here. Will Marshall. Will Marshall with Warrior Path He's. Oh, you're on that side. Wasn't even expecting you on that side. Here you go. I will let you do the honors and explaining.
Thank you. My name is Will Marshall, and I am a veteran. I spent 44 years serving and working in military medicine, and I've witnessed and lived with the devastating effects of war, both physical, seen and unseen. In those 44 years, I saw about 1,000 people die in hundreds of different ways. My first combat death shook me to the core and put me in a negative spiral for about 11 years. When a veteran retires or leaves the military, those things don't go away. They stay with us. They become part of our DNA. It'll always be there. We just ended the longest war in our history. But for many of us, we still struggle. When we came home, sometimes things got worse. The things that served us well on the battlefield, tenacity, razor-sharp awareness, intense mission preparation, they didn't go so well at home. And we struggled. And our families saw anxiety, depression, anger, despondence. And we got diagnosed with things like post-traumatic stress and various adjustment disorders. What we know today is that less than 50% of people that are struggling after going to war, less than 50% of them seek help. And what we also know is that the people who do seek help, 2/3 of them do not complete treatment programs. They're lost. They continue to be lost. They continue to struggle. Warrior Path is different. Warrior Path teaches us to respond instead of react. Warrior Path gives us the opportunity to thrive instead of just survive. The Athenian general Thucydides, who was the first military historian, if you will, wrote, "We must remember that one man is much the same as another, and that he is best who is trained in the severest school." I can tell you from personal experience that war is the severest school. I want to introduce you to Warrior Path. Warrior Path was developed to enhance post-traumatic growth, to take veterans and first responders who are struggling and give them the opportunity to thrive, turn that struggle into strength, turning times of deep struggle into profound strength, and to be the leaders in our community and the family members and the husbands and wives and sisters and brothers that our family members need us to be today. To give us the life that we desire and the life that we deserve to lead after going through that severest school. So Warrior Path is a 7-day intensive, emotional, deep dive into why we struggle after war. What we know from Warrior Path is that these 7 days, followed by a few months of intensive follow-up and teamwork, is that we then see a 51% decrease in post-traumatic stress symptoms. We see 41% decrease in anxiety across the board. We see 35% less stress. We see 21% increase in self-compassion, and probably the best one, 56% increase in post-traumatic growth, letting go of all the old stuff and letting ourselves thrive instead of just survive. Among Warrior Path alum, and there are a few thousand of us now nationwide, we are thriving. Warrior Path was developed by a group called the Boulder Crest Foundation. It is now supported by the Gary Sinise Avalon Network. And here in the Pacific Northwest, it's under the auspices of the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation, right here in Gig Harbor. We've been teaching Warrior Path here in the Pacific Northwest now for 5 months. In fact, we're starting another program just tomorrow. I am a Warrior Path alum. I'm 11 months into my journey. My journey has no end. It's not like I reached the end of a curriculum. My journey is lifelong. And I would tell you that Warrior Path saved my life. I'm a Warrior Path guide. I'm one of 6 guides here with this team. Between the 6 guides, we have 135 years of military service, and we have 33 combat deployments between the 6 of us. We all have been trained in the severest school, and we are the people that our community needs now. Warrior Path is for post 9/11 combat veterans and first responders. If you know a first responder or post 9/11 combat veteran who is suffering, please, please, please have them reach out. We can be found at the ptsdfoundation.org. Thank you.
I'm going to give it a hot second for the... And now. Waiting for the horns. It just takes a second. Yo, yes. It's a little longer than 5 seconds. Your microphone was on. There you go. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Deputy Director of the Department of Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, David Puente, Jr.
Thank you, Rich. Good afternoon. As Greg mentioned, my name is David Puente. I'm the Deputy Director of your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. I just want to say thank you. Before I say a few words, I want to thank Will, Doc, and Warrior Path for the work that they're doing as veteran service organizations, because that is a priority for our governor in the state of Washington, suicide prevention and traumatic brain injury. There's a lot of things going on with PTSD. So I just want to say thank you for taking care of our veterans in the state of Washington. So again, for myself, I am also a U.S. Army veteran. I served about 7 years in the U.S. Army. My last duty station was over at Fort Bliss, Texas. I was in the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command. So what I'd like to share is a little bit about is, first of all, I'm honored to be here, and I'm grateful that you've asked me to join you today to celebrate Veterans Day. For the dedicated team at your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, every day is Veterans Day. It's an honor to come to work each day and to fulfill our mission of serving those who served by connecting veterans and their families to their earned benefits. While we celebrate Veterans Day today, I want to take a moment to honor the estimated 5,700 World War II veterans that are living in the state of Washington. We thank this greatest generation for the many contributions they've made to our country and to our communities. These are the men and women who survived the Great Depression, answered the call to serve our country after the attack of Pearl Harbor, and served both in the armed forces and in the home front. Their bravery and sacrifice will be forever remembered in our nation's history. After the war's end, it was these men and women who used their personal responsibility, humility, commitment, and self-sacrifice to bring our country's incredible social and to economic heights. Your WDVA has 4 long-term care facilities located across the state of Washington. We have a privilege to care for nearly 25 World War II veterans. I'd like to share a brief story about one of those veterans that resides in one of your state veterans' homes. His name is First Lieutenant Butler, who served in the Army Air Corps as a B-24 bombardier during World War II. He flew 53 bombing missions in the European theater and was shot down 7 separate occasions. On one of those occasions, he was captured by the enemy forces and imprisoned in a POW camp from where he escaped. Lieutenant Butler served proudly from 1942 until his retirement in 1965. As you know, it's getting harder and harder for us to thank these individuals in person. However, continuing to talk, share their stories, and to remind our children and grandchildren, we can help preserve their legacies. Thank you for being here today and remembering all the veterans who served and the importance of community involvement, especially like here in Gig Harbor and this event is taking place. Lastly, what I'd like to do is challenge each and every one of us to keep an eye out for your veteran neighbor, your relative, your friend. You don't know when there's going to be a time of need. All we need to do sometimes is just listen to our veteran community, and that's all they're asking for, is to be heard sometimes. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Happy Veterans Day, and for you Marine comrades, I want to say happy belated birthday. Thank you.
All right, keep the horns handy because I'm going to ask you to honk them a few more times. A couple more things to run through as we wind down the program for you. I would like to recognize all the services represented. So when I name your service, honk your horns. Let's go ahead and begin with the U.S. Army. And then I will follow that with the Navy. When you hear that, go ahead and honk, so maybe we'll get them both going here. And then the Air Force. Navy, and Marines. And Coast Guard. I hope that wasn't too confusing, kind of all in succession. I think everybody's represented here. All right, now let's see who's paying attention out there. How about years of service? Let's start out with years of service, 0 to 10 years of service in the armed forces. Go ahead and honk your horns. And then 10 to 15 right after that. And then 15 to 20. Now I'll give a pause here to make sure we have a clean break. How about 20 to 30? 20 to 30. I hear a few of you back there. There you go. And anybody over 30 years of service in the armed forces, please honk your horn and thank you for that service. I mean, we're doing pretty well on time, so I'm just going to throw this out there. Anybody over 40 years of service? Anybody with more than 40 years of service? Wow. Somebody's got more than 40 years of service here. Really, thank you for all of your service, everybody. And as those horns wind down, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank a whole lot of people, starting with the committee that put this together. They got a hold of me months ago to ask me whether I would be part of this. I gladly said yes, but I have been on a conference call with them every Friday on a Zoom meeting for about an hour. I don't know what they do behind the scenes, but watching them try to put all of this together has been nothing short of amazing, with changes kind of up until the last second. So thank you to the committee for putting all of this together. It really was an amazing feat. I also want to thank a lot of the volunteers. We've got the Boy Scouts Troop 27 from Fox Island out here, Junior ROTC from Peninsula High School. I think there's some from Gig Harbor High School as well. We've got the Eagles. We have a lot of sponsors, Kiwanis, Rotary, Uptown, of course, providing the space. You can go ahead and honk while I talk, won't bother me. Safeway, Starbucks, PenMet Parks, Heron's Key, Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation, and the Meacham Foundation. So how about go ahead and honk your hands out for all of those sponsors and all of those volunteers today who helped put this event together. You are right now. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. And with that, I will reintroduce the Reverend Kamsia for the benediction.
Again, let us pray. We give you thanks, gracious God, for this time together, for your presence with us as we remember, as we honor our veterans, their families, as we remember the happenings 20 years ago. We ask you that to help us hear your call that goes again for service, a service as we leave this place to go back to our communities. You call us to serve one another. Go with us now, gracious God, to serve you as we serve those around us. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. And with that, before we bring this show to a close, we have a few more drawings. So if you would bring out those raffle tickets one more time.
Excellent.
You got this?
I do.
I will let you take it over.
Okay, I'm just going to do the last 4 digits of the number. So the first one is 3929. Again, the last 4 digits, 3929. If you're the winner, please stop by the main tent and you can pick it up. Okay, so that's one more flag. And the flags, then we have some wonderful photos that a local photographer has donated to us. They are framed photos. They are beautiful. Actually, Miss Robin, if you could be my Vanna and show us one on camera. They are all unique, but the first one is, as you can see, Robin is showing us. And so this one will go to the next drawing of the last 4 digits of 3808. So if you have that, please come up. There are 5 of these, so I'm just going to go and very rapidly go through these so we can get everybody going. The next one is 3682. The next one is 3989. How many more do I have? Okay. The next one is 4004. And the last one is 3971. And again, thank you everyone for coming to the 4th annual Gig Harbor Veterans Day celebration. We honor our veterans today, and we want to make sure that you really make sure that you love the veteran that's in part of your family and part of your community. They deserve to be honored at all times, but especially on today. So, Greg, are you ready to say goodbye? Oh, no. Our local community wants to say goodbye to you. So come on, one more time, and then we'll close this down.
I'd already turned my microphone off. Thank you for having me out. It's been wonderful to be a part of this. Thank you for everybody for turning out in this horrible weather. And I hope you have a wonderful Veterans Day. I'm going to turn it over to Joe now to close out the show. Have a great day, everybody.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out on this rainy day for Veterans Day. So thank you for coming. I want to thank the U.S. Navy Northwest Band for playing here today. I want to thank the American Legion for being here today. I want to thank the ROTC from Gig Harbor Peninsula for here. It's nice to see you. It's our first year here. So with this, I would like everybody to face the flag behind the tent, give a hand salute, and we will play taps for the last song. Hand salute. much for coming. And listen to the Navy band finish off here for us. Hoorah!
I'm your best. I'm your best. I'm your beer. Good. 1, 2, Tango for Jam Jam. Oh, there we go. Yes. It's a tango. All right. All good. I grew up there.
No, we haven't yet. This folder.
Real person. Look at it. It's a real person. Okay. One,
Hey, nice job, guys. Sounded great.
All right, do you guys want to eat or pack up first?
Back up. All right, back up.